Hello, film fans. Welcome to the Film vs. Film podcast. My name is Martin Harries, your host. I'm a filmmaker on occasion, but mainly can't stop yapping about movies. On this podcast, every episode I pick a topic from a film that's coming out at the cinema or on streaming. I pick a favourite film from that topic and battle it out against a guest to decide which film will become the greatest film of all time. If you enjoy this podcast, please leave us a 5-star review and subscribe. Please enjoy part 1. Hello, Podroonies or Podsters, if you prefer. We are back again for another episode of the Film vs. Film podcast. This episode, as the Terrifier 3 is out, actually came out a few weeks ago, so I think it got moved up a bit. Naughty Terrifier, naughty. Didn't wait for me. But yeah, people seem to be loving it. So we are kind of niching down a little bit for our episode and talking Christmas horror films. And of course, I'm not talking alone. I have one of my favorite guests with me and who have been on countless times. And I don't really know how many times they've been on now, but it's Christina and Mac from the World of Horror podcast. How are you guys?
We're great. Thanks, Martin.
Yeah.
Good to be here.
Good.
Yeah, good to be back.
And if people don't already know, tell us about your podcast and where can we find you guys?
Well, we're World of Horror with Mom and Mac, and we do a podcast celebrating international horror films. Each show, we take a subgenre of horror and pair an international horror film with an American one. And when we have guests on, they bring a film that means the world of horror to them. And Martin, you've brought us some bangers like The Thing and Dr. Terror's House of Horrors, and most recently Censor. And so you can find us wherever you found this podcast.
Excellent stuff. So Terrifier 3, guys. What do we make of this one? Have you guys seen it?
No, I didn't make it through Terrifier 2. I liked Terrifier 1, and I liked it to, like, I had heard other horror people talk about it, and I was surprised that some people didn't like it, but I felt like I understood what they meant in Terrifier 2. I got to the bedroom scene, and I was like, I think I'm good, actually. So and I heard there was a third one. I'm interested in what happens, but I honestly have no interest in seeing it. But do you like the Terrifier movies?
I've not actually seen any of them, but I've heard they're pretty good and pretty fun. Quite long though, apparently. Yeah, so I've heard stories that it's just a bit of a slog. I think, especially like Terrifier 2, over 2 hours. I think Terrifier 3 hits the 2-hour mark as well. Apparently, 2 hours and 5 minutes. Interesting that say at Christmas, he's pretending to be a Santa Claus. To lure people in, I guess. Yeah, I'll probably get round to watching them at some point. It's just really interesting that this is kind of beating out Joker Folie à Deux at the box office, which is kind of hilarious to me, to be honest, because, that Joker 2 has been very divisive and very not what people were expecting at all, I think, from the first film. So I think it has just left the door ajar open for Terrifier 3 to, nap up those tickets, I think. Are you a fan of the Terrifier films, Christina?
I haven't seen any, but I have been very curious about the third one because it's getting a lot of attention. Yeah. Also, I wanted to mention Smile 2 is also out, so it's kind of...
Oh, brother.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm planning to see that one later this week.
Oh, please tell me how it is. I saw Smile 1 in theaters, and there were so many moments where a whole audience groaned. I'm just like, oh, come on. But it was fun.
I remember me and Boaz had very different opinions on Smile. I think he quite liked it a lot, and I was like, it's fine. I don't think it's anything special. I think it kind of writes itself into a bit of a hole of they can't really do much with the character once the curse has got you. So it's just like, okay. But apparently the second one is bigger and brasher and scarier and all that jazz, like a lot of horror sequels are. Yeah, so I am intrigued. Apparently it's got a great central performance, but yeah, I'm intrigued to see Smile 2 anyway.
It feels like it should be like a Netflix horror movie. Like that's, and I guess that is a dig, but I feel like there's a place for those, where it's like I'm doing laundry and I have to fold them and I need something on. And I feel like that's a perfect place for Smile to be. And maybe Smile, I haven't seen Smile 2, but when you're like stuck in a theater, I was like, I could have spent my money. Like I would like to pirate this film. I would not like to pay for it.
Oh, I'll tell you a good one. It's kind of light sci-fi, not really horror, but maybe there's some overlap, but it's called It's What's Inside, and it is on Netflix, and I would recommend that one. I heard it like a cross between Bodies, Bodies, Bodies and Talk to Me.
Ooh, I liked Bodies, Bodies, Bodies a lot.
I like Talk to Me a lot. That was good.
That movie was like so... I honestly have been out of the theater game for a little while. And so I feel like that was the last horror movie I saw in theaters. And I don't know, made me feel like, do I still got it? Because I was like so shocked by it. And then I talked to a friend who's kind of a casual movie fan. They were like, oh, it was lame.
I thought it was great. I was quite shocked, even though watching it at home, I was like, oof.
Yeah, it was intense.
There's some crazy shit in this. But we are talking Christmas horror films, people. And is it all right if we go with my choice first, guys?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
As I don't get to go first too often, I don't think, which is probably not a wise decision. But let's go with it. I've got my notes up for that anyway. So it was kind of hard because I was just like, I need to probably have a Google to see what Christmas horror films are out there. And in my research, and what I kind of tend to do these days now is just I look at a lot of like magazine articles with top 10s of particular genres when we're doing a genre, or when we're doing an episode. And Rare Exports kept coming up in kind of the top 10 of tables from these articles. So I was like, okay. And it got a pretty good IMDb Metascore, all those kind of scores. So I was like, okay, let's check this one out. So what happens in Rare Exports, A Christmas Tale, original title, Rare Exports. It's a Finnish film. I'm going to struggle probably to pronounce some of these names, but it's a Finnish one. So what happens in Rare Exports? Well, in the depths of the Korvochunchuri Mountains in Finland, Lapland, 486 meters deep lies the closest ever guarded secret of Christmas. The time has come to dig it up. This Christmas, everyone will believe in Santa Claus. Brief as ever from IMDb. Hilarious. So this father and son in Finland kind of discover this body, I think, and there's lots of funny goings on that the kid discovers, and there's lots of kind of twists and turns and weird stuff going on in this film. It's very weird tonally, I think, at times, but I think it marries kind of the creep factor of what you expect in a horror film, and kind of has little moments of Christmas cheer. I think very little ones, but it's an interesting one. I think there are moments at the end where I was disappointed, and you can definitely feel the budget constraints in this film for sure. Certainly with just kind of the filmmaking, but I think some of the elements are really good with our categories that we do on this podcast. So what do you guys think of this one, Mac? Initial reactions to Rare Exports?
Well, I had actually seen it before. I have, and I guess there's like a particular history I have with this movie because I spent Christmas Eve with my dad, and it was with Rare Exports that we started a tradition of watching like horror Christmas movies, and he finds them all. He supplies them to me, and I didn't quite remember it. I think maybe I was playing a video game and I just had a moment because I was like, man, what year was that? And I looked at where it says 2010. I was like, oh, well, it couldn't have been the first one. That was only 4 years ago. And I was like, wait a second. No, that was 14 years ago. So yes, I was in high school, and I was probably like, I don't want to be here right now. So I was playing like a video game, but I do remember it. I'm watching it again. I feel the exact same way as you. I feel like you get so into it, and then, man, it just kind of, it keeps building up, and what it's building to seems so exciting, and then you just never get to see it.
Yeah. Christina, initial reactions for you?
Yeah, I had seen it also, but also I had forgotten a lot of it. And I actually had to watch a couple of parts over again because I was a little confused about what was going on. I think it's probably not just me. I think you have to be dialed in, especially because it's a foreign language film.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like the relationship. Well, I don't know if I like the relationship, but the relationship between the father and the son is very compelling. And I think the kid, it's easy to kind of get, interested in his storyline. And I don't know anything about Finnish culture and what it's like to be a reindeer farmer and stuff. So I just thought all that stuff was really interesting. And I thought that the first elf that they find, was pretty scary.
Yeah.
But yeah, then the climax happens real quick and then it kind of gets resolved. Yeah.
Yeah, it's surprisingly very short, this film. Like only an hour and 22, 24 minutes.
Kind of feels longer than that.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think the pacing is a tad slow, I think, at times. So, which is not necessarily a criticism, but yeah, it was just quite surprising that the film is that short. You just don't see runtimes like that, especially these days. Most films, like, the Terrifier, usually over 2 hours. So directing, then, I quite like the opening scenes where you have this kind of great performance by Jonathan Hutchings as this guy with a cane and glasses, and you have this quite dramatic scene of him addressing his workforce drilling this mountain. They're all on top of this mountain, and it feels quite grand with the mountain landscape in the background. Like, then during like the credits, you see this kid reading about this ancient Santa Claus, and there's even a picture of Santa cooking like a child in a pot, like he's a witch. So I quite liked kind of the weird, mysterious tone the film is going for in the beginning. Yeah, the kind of the drawings were really interesting to see.
Yeah, I feel similarly. I felt like they give you just enough to get you very interested, and then especially the landscape is so foreign to me in any place I've ever been before. And so then I was thinking, like, what is their life like? Like, how often do they go to the village that we never see? And then, there's the question of, they just brings up so many threads that you're excited to explore later. And yeah, I loved the opening credits so much. I rewound just to watch it again because I love those like styles of drawings. I feel like that would make a good tattoo, honestly, of the Krampus claws, like putting the kid in the pot. I can just imagine being a kid and looking at that, and you've never seen something like that and being horrified.
Yeah.
It was like kind of just weird and funny at the same time, because I think isn't that Santa got like horns on as well?
And then he draws like a little like red hat where the horns go. I loved that. So he's still a kid,
cool. Yeah. So the film definitely like brings that kind of childlike charm, I think, to the beginning as well as kind of the weirdness to it.
Yeah, and I think that is kind of what it's like to be a kid, before you really understand the way the world works. So I was trying to figure out how old this kid was. Kind of bad with like that kind of thing. Maybe 9? I mean, he still has a little booby that he carries around with him everywhere. So maybe he's a little younger. Obviously, very intelligent kid. And I think, the family's obviously been through something in terms of the loss of the mother, but just the landscape and stuff just seems so harsh. So that kind of goes with their relationship too, I think.
Definitely. Yeah, it's very well shot. Like, I feel like the camera's always on the move, kind of lingering there, and maybe just trying to like find things that shouldn't be or something. It's definitely got that kind of horror vibe, but at the same time, it it looks beautiful as well. Lapland, Finland looks incredible. And you're like, yeah, I wouldn't mind having a holiday here, going skiing or something. Yeah, it's really well shot. But I don't think there's anything like too spectacular, I don't think, with the directing and with what's going on until kind of the last few scenes in the climax that I found were fairly interesting, where we kind of get this reveal that Peter Jacobi is not Santa at all, but one of his helpers, an elf, apparently. Then all these kind of elves, or rather really old dudes, like kill the English guy with the glasses with like a pickaxe to the back of the head. Then they escape to this warehouse and find like the real Santa frozen in ice, and the elves are trying to like thaw him out with these stolen radiators. You know, the kids have been like kidnapped in potato sacks, and you're thinking, okay, what's Santa going to look like when the ice thaws? Then the film becomes basically a zombie movie for a few minutes as the elves like try and bash down the door of the warehouse. Then I liked that Petrie, the kid, gets kind of like a hero moment. He gets a few hero moments, but like when he reveals all the dynamite and he's like holding the shotgun, then he comes up with a plan, which in the end was a bit confusing because Petrie ends up inside the reindeer pen, which was electrified, which he electrifies by turning the switch and opens the gate as a self-sacrifice move. But I was just like, why did you need to open the gate? Like the whole idea was to just get the elves away from the warehouse, I thought. Other than that, like the journey with the helicopter was cool. Not the best like CGI in the world, I wouldn't say, with like the horde of elves in these kind of big wide shots. So it was a bit disappointing that we didn't see like the Santa thaw out. You know, the poor bloke just got blown up.
Yeah, I have to wonder if that was their plan or if they had to pivot and be like, okay, no, we can't actually have the Santa in here. Yeah. It just seems so weird to have this awesome, you're just expecting like, wow, this gigantic Santa. Those are just the elves. But then, because that kind of reveal, I feel like only works if then you get to see the big thing that you should be scared of. Kind of like, or you have to put that at the end, like a la Cloverfield, of like, oh, and then here comes the big Santa. What happens next? But to just be like, no, we took care of it. He's fine. He's dead.
Yeah.
Kind of lame.
Yeah. I think I have, I don't know what the word would be, but I think I have a fear of gigantic things.
Right.
You know, so
you were glad it blew up. It was fine.
I was, but no, I'm in the same boat with you guys. I really feel like they missed an opportunity, or like you're suggesting, Mac, maybe they just ran out of money, but it's too bad, whatever, that they made that choice.
Because I feel like maybe there was a moment when the guy was like drilling into the ice when he was putting all of the dynamite in the ice holes, that maybe something might have happened there. But even before then, I think it was pretty clear what was going to happen, and a lot of the main focus of the scene was with the kid and the helicopter. Yeah, all around a bit disappointing with that, because it looks huge and like you have these huge horns and they just like saw it off. I felt sorry for Santa in the end. I was like, oh, come on. Like we don't get to see it and he loses his horns and blows up. That's harsh.
And he's been frozen, got no kids to eat.
Yeah. Have you guys got a favorite shot or scene?
The shot when they see all of the dead reindeer, I thought was pretty. There was kind of like a Jaws moment of the dad and, you know, like the guy at the beach in Jaws. I thought that shot was cool. And then you kind of see this like overhead. And I don't know if just the landscape is doing a lot of heavy lifting, like probably, but it did look cool. Like this, you see how devastating this is for these guys who it's like this is their only thing, and now all the reindeer are dead, and how what a like an oh shit moment the kids are having of like oh no, like is this our fault because we put a hole through the fence? So I like that whole sequence.
Christina?
Yeah, I was thinking about it and watching some of it over again. I do think the sweeping, camera, like taking in the landscape and stuff, is really pretty. I like the shot of Pietri, like when he's standing in front of the warehouse and it says 2-4. I like that.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It's kind of just showing like the size of this little kid, and pretty soon he'll become a hero, but not yet. I like that shot.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. Yeah, I was always just like, why is he like taping it up? Maybe it's just because I'm an adult now. I don't know, but just like he's just taping up the advent calendar of 24. I guess, yeah, he's just realizing, oh, it can't be Christmas soon. We're in trouble. I don't know, just in his childlike ways, just, yeah, I'm like trying to do everything that he can to stop Christmas from happening, or I don't know. Yeah, it was interesting that.
And it's like the helicopter scene was definitely very cool, but I feel like that whole sequence kind of undercuts, in my opinion, how well they portrayed being a kid. Because now he's a superhero and he's like commanding these old guys around with this amazing plan. And, then he's like, tell my dad what I did. What kid is thinking? I like the callback to, him maybe wondering, like, would my dad be better off if I wasn't around? That's pretty intense and deep. I like that story thread, but it just felt so like, who is this kid? Where before I felt like he handled everything like a child does. And like you said, the taping of the advent calendar, that's something only a kid would do, but that's very sweet and shows how powerless he is in this situation. But now he has all the power.
But now he's jumping off helicopters.
Yeah.
Before he gets caught on the wire, I'm like, you're going to break your leg, dude.
How do you know how to do this?
Yeah. Oh, no, my dad teaches me every day. It's fine. I get to jump out of helicopters on a daily basis. For me, my favorite scene, I guess, was a few little scenes that kind of ramp up the tension and the mystery of Santa Claus. Like the English guy, Green, is on the radio to his boss. There's this close-up shot on him and he gets a bit shaky, he notices that his men are getting killed around him. He's looking around, and then we get this kind of wide shot of just yellow helmets on the ground, and one just kind of falls into shot. And it did feel a little bit cheap, where it felt like some guy just has thrown a helmet into shot, and the director's like, oh yeah, that'll do, let's move on. But the next scene with Ranu and Into and his son Petrie discover that the bait from this like wolf trap has gone, and there's nothing too special, I don't think, with the directing. But when like Ranu moves this branch to reveal that looks like this hand, like the film cuts away like really quickly, and you're just not sure what you've just seen. So you feel like the film is really trying to like maximize like the efficiency and suspense as much as possible in those moments. Yeah, I think I definitely preferred like that second scene with the hand, because you're just not quite sure what you've just seen, but it looked like a hand to me. Yeah, so I think that was pretty well done. So, directing score, guys, for Rare Exports, what are you going for?
Oh gosh, I have to say
That's naughty, Mac.
I wasn't really blown away. I mean, I don't, like you said, Martin, I don't think a whole lot of, there was a whole lot that was special in terms of the directing. 6.5. What do you think, Mac?
I was going to say 6, so I'm pleased that we were on the same page.
Okay.
What, so like a 6.2, 6.3, or
6.25?
Yeah, 6.3 then.
Yeah, 6.3.
Yeah. Like I feel like you can just feel that you can feel the restraints, and you feel like their script and their idea is like really good and kind of too big to fill their boots kind of thing, and they can't like fully execute what they really want to shoot. So, and you can definitely feel that a little bit. And I swear there was literally just a dude like with a yellow helmet just threw a helmet in front of the camera. But yeah, so but other than that, I kind of just liked, as I mentioned before briefly, just this kind of lingering camera. I do like a constantly moving camera, and yet you kind of don't necessarily notice it too much if you're really into the film. I don't think it quite achieves that in like a Denis Villeneuve level, where he kind of does that a lot, and you're so into it and you don't really necessarily realize that something is just always happening with the camera. So, yeah. And I think, as you say, Christina, maybe kind of the landscape is doing a lot of the heavy lifting, which is no negative, but necessarily. But yeah, I'll probably go like, I don't think I'll go as harsh as like a 6.3, but I'll go like a 6.8.
I thought you were going to say much higher. Okay.
Oh, no. Yeah, I don't know. I was thinking maybe a straight 7, but yeah.
I do think it's a shame because I do feel like where it does shine, it is good. That's why it's kind of like a sad 6.3 that I'm giving. Yeah. You know, I'm like, it's a forlorn 6.3 because I really feel like with better, you know, with all the budget in the world, I feel like they could have done a whole lot better.
Screenplay then. So kind of the first thing of note about the film is that it's really short, as we've kind of said already, and yet the pacing isn't like super fast. You know, for a film that's like less than 90 minutes, they obviously use a lot of like monster movie tropes, like where these kind of miners release the beast near the beginning and the kid, Pietri, discovers like weird little things, like the hand in the wolf's pit. His friend has been replaced by this kind of old-fashioned looking doll, and you're like, oh, has he been transformed? Has he been kidnapped? You know, and all the one of the great ones for me is when all the potato sacks have gone and not the potatoes. I thought that was kind of not genius, but like quite amusing. And of course, what's great about all these little weird discoveries is that the adults are all kind of confused about the whole situation and all these weird things. But Pietri is like, yeah, I know who is doing this. It's Santa. And of course, he's ignored until who you think is Santa at this point. So it's always like a classic character dynamic that always kind of works well and sort of reminds you that it's essentially a Christmas film from the kid's perspective, half of it at least anyway, with very weird, horrible bits.
Yeah, I felt like some of the characterization was good. I feel like Petrie, the main boy, up until the helicopter, I really like everything that, you know, we're finding out about him and what I just feel like it portrays being a kid and not, you know, like he's so well-meaning and he's never trying to do anything wrong, but you also empathize with the dad if you put yourself in the dad's shoes of like, you get why he put that trap in the chimney, but also from the dad's perspective being like, I could have seriously gotten hurt, and how he's just like, you're grounded, you know, like just please don't go outside because he's worried about, you know, his kid and doesn't want him to get scared or see anything. And he is kind of, you know, doesn't really listen because he's so inquisitive and whatnot. So I just felt like that whole dynamic was good. But a lot of the other guys kind of blend together, including like the bully. I felt like the bully, he was just such an asshole. And then at the end, he was such a little baby. And I don't know. I kind of was like, get rid of him. I was so happy when he wasn't in the movie anymore.
He was also a baby genius. And we didn't know that till the very end, right?
I don't even remember that.
Add up numbers really quickly in his mind.
Right.
Yeah, he was just an asshole, like just choking the kid and, you know, like, I'm going to flog you if you tell your dad anything. Like, oh my God. And this, I just was thinking about Petrie, like, this is it. This is his only friend.
Yeah.
Who else is here?
No wonder he's wearing all that kind of hockey armor, which is quite cute, but practical
also
for
sad.
him. Yeah. The kid, Pietri, definitely, and the bully kid gave me very much Let the Right One In, the Swedish version vibes.
Yeah,
totally.
I definitely went straight back to that film. It may even be the same actor, I'm not sure, but they look very similar.
They have very similar disposition.
Yeah. But yeah, it's interesting, you know, the dad just doesn't want to deal with, like, you know, that scene that you mentioned, Mac, the fact that he puts the trap in the chimney, and you're right, like the dad literally could have been killed, but he doesn't really want to explain why, you know, from the dad's perspective, that Santa isn't real. It's just a fairy tale made up story for kids at Christmas time. He just doesn't want to engage with that because obviously they're in Finland, Lapland. I guess they get a lot of that kind of story put upon them all the time. So from the outside world, from maybe the people that come into the village, maybe, I don't know, or it's just put upon them through, well, I suspect it very much is through what they watch on TV and stuff, etc. But around Christmas, so you can definitely feel that frustration. And there's a really interesting scene near the beginning with Pietri and the dad, where Pietri is like, he says something like, "Oh, what would happen if I'm not here anymore?" And again, like, the dad just doesn't want to engage with that. He's just like, well, little boys at this time go to bed. He just, because I guess they don't really talk about the mother or the wife. She's clearly not there, and there's obviously pressure that on the dad that you're getting towards Christmas and the whole family isn't there for whatever reason. They don't really explore that, but I think you can definitely see it in the acting. But yeah, it's interesting, that whole dynamic between the dad and the son.
I felt like the acting from the dad in that scene was just so amazing. Like how he looked so pained that the actor conveyed just with his face how horrible it was to hear his son say, "What if I wasn't here anymore?" Just feeling like, oh my God, what is going on in my kid's head that he's thinking this? But like you said, also not doing anything to make it better and just trying to really put it on the kid. And just, again, the kid is obviously having some feelings of like, I'm bad. I'm inherently bad. There's something wrong with me. I'm doing my best, but I keep getting in trouble. So there must be something wrong with me. And that's so intense and sad. And the dad's just like, yeah, keep thinking that because it gets you out of my hair. But also that sucks that you feel that way. But I also get where the dad's coming from. He's just it is not a one-person job to raise a child. And he has a job that the kid can't even be in the same room as when he's like butchering creatures, so this is just not a good situation for anybody.
No.
Yeah, I do think it's a pretty interesting story, and I was surprised. I mean, I think the kind of surprise that the person they've captured is not Santa Claus is a pretty good one.
Yeah.
So that was very satisfying. And I think we get a lot of their life just in a pretty short runtime. He's a butcher, and it's, I guess they're somewhat poor and isolated, and maybe the mother has died. And, there's a lot of information around this relationship and around what these men have to do in order to really survive in this harsh landscape. So, I mean, all that part of it I thought was really interesting.
I think what really kind of just lets it down, and we've alluded to it a lot, and it's just that you have this great reveal that no, Peter Jacobi's character is actually an elf and not Santa. I just don't think they really do anything with it. And then when Santa is revealed, it's just like a big ice block with horns that gets blown up, and then it just essentially becomes a zombie film. So I feel like the film has just worked so hard with the mystery element of like, who actually is this guy? Is this actually Santa? Oh my God, he's incredibly creepy.
He can smell children,
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
And his eyes glow gold at certain points. Yeah, so it's just, the film kind of just runs out of road. Yeah, it's a bit, again, disappointing.
Because I feel like still the elves coming out, of the woodwork gave me Hereditary vibes of just, okay, old naked people that are just there. Okay, what's going on? Definitely unnerving. And that in conjunction with a giant Santa would have been very cool. But when you just get old naked guys, it's like, well, I was promised a giant demon Krampus Santa, because they show again all the cool art in the beginning that shows a lot of varieties of how Santa could look. So I'm thinking like, wow, okay, like what's this? I kind of had a feeling like, okay, well, this guy doesn't have any horns, kind of diminutive. We're not seeing everything here. And so I forgot what happened in the movie, and I just got so pumped. And but like you said, once I saw the ice block, I was like, I'm not seeing Santa.
Yeah. I want my present. Oh.
I think sometimes this is called like a horror comedy, and I wonder if it is hilarious, in Finnish.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe we're just missing something here. Yeah.
Like the potato scene, that's sort of funny. I mean, and There's a lot him covering up his bum with the cardboard, that's kind of funny. But I'm not, I never laughed once or anything. So, yeah. Not sure if it's just not successful or it's just, there's stuff in there that we wouldn't get, And
we haven't even touched the whole ending part, which is the only time that the whole Rare Exports title comes into play. And it's like, well, now it's over. So
yeah,
I guess I'll imagine what happens.
That's my favorite.
I feel like the film has missed the trick there. I'm like, we could have had an extra 5 or 10 minutes just exploring what this is like for this family and these characters, literally exporting elves to make them look like Santa, like genuine real Santas across the world. I don't know, it just kind of gave me Shaun of the Dead vibes, really. The fact that, on the TV they're using zombies in reality TV shows and stuff. And do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah. The fact that they're literally exporting real elves, marketing them as Santas. Yeah, you only really get a few shots of that kind of sequence, and yeah, I feel like the film could have really explored that a lot more, rather than just oh, this is the title of the film.
I just had an idea, and they should have had me be a screenwriter, because my thought is
absolutely.
You got the Rare Exports. You bring that in way earlier, all the elves, because maybe Santa's not unearthed yet. And then at the very end, you can have it be revealed, oh, these are not Santas, these are elves. You don't even have to show a Santa. You just have to show a rumbling and then be like, maybe there'll be a second one. And then you never make a second movie. Boom. You got to save that reveal till the very end if you cannot show me a big Santa.
And also with the big Santa, I'm like, why does he have to be that big? I feel like they've just written themselves into a hole. I'm like...
Because they said, you always wondered how he got all around the world. I'm like, this doesn't answer that question.
Yeah. What, he can run really fast because he's huge?
World's still pretty big. Can he swim?
Yeah. Yeah, so I feel like they've written themselves into a hole there. The fact that they just don't have the money to produce something spectacular. I'm just like, well, can't just have a little bit of makeup with someone that's over 6 foot with big horns, go from there, and then you could have a great horror sequence towards the end, the Thing style or whatever. But it's disappointing. Favorite lines, interesting lines, people? What we got?
I just wrote down the Coca-Cola Santa is just a hoax. I think that was pretty
good. And we already touched on what would you do if what if I wasn't here? I thought that was a pretty powerful line, and I don't know. I just liked it when the kid also was just yelling at the guy with the helicopter. Once I just accepted, okay, this is my reality now. I didn't think he was funny. Every time he said his name, which I can't remember, I just enjoyed that. Hearing his name with lots of P's in it. What was that guy's name?
Piparinen.
Yeah.
Piparinen, yes. Yeah. How do I look? Like a kid in a diaper when he's got the hockey armor on. That was very harsh.
Oh, I liked it when that one sheriff was like, because he's saying, this kid's missing. He's like, well, when I was your age, I was chasing after girls. I was like, well, what girls? I haven't seen a single woman in this film.
That's a good point. Yeah. One I quite liked, the real Santa Claus, he tears naughty kids to pieces. Not even their skeletons are left.
Gosh. I don't know exactly the sequence, but the kid just says, I think it's to Piparin, and no. He just says no. And all of a sudden, he's in charge. And, the guy's just like, oh, shit. I kind of like that moment.
At the end with all the Santas, when they're being like, okay, here, don't strangle a child or anything. And the one Santa drops the doll and grabs and Piparin's like, not for you, like Beardy or something like that. I thought that was funny.
I like the little bit when the dad has to go find a Pietri and Piparin is left there at his abattoir place. And he's like, I have to go. what do I do with him? And they've got, the elf, the elf in there. And he's like, have a little chat. I don't know.
Yeah, and then he's like, have you seen the Northern Lights or something? He really is like trying to have a chat with him.
Yeah, but I think my favorite is a Papirin one. And Pietri, and they're in the helicopter near the end, and Pietri says, Papirin, the gate's closed. Fiddlesticks, we need a new plan. I mean, I haven't heard fiddlesticks in a while. I mean, that is a great line in my book.
Bring it back.
Yeah. In the beginning, when people were speaking English, this guy says, "This is funny shit," and the English guy's like, "Watch your mouth. It's Christmas time, so let's act like it." Because another thing, they had this whole introduction of this idea of like, you have to be good, you can't be naughty, but then nothing gets done with this. Like, you've got all these, construction worker dudes who are cursing and smoking, and now they have these rules like, okay, he's actually going to get you if you're naughty, but then nothing happens. I would have liked to see them be good or be naughty, and then I guess that was Helmet.
Yeah,
that's what
helmet
happened.
Throwing. Yeah, there's no... Yeah, they don't really do anything with that, do they, at all, to be honest? I guess everyone they just assume everyone's naughty. For like digging them up, but...
It's frustrating when something's got great ideas, and like, because I think it's actually it's not easy to get an audience excited because we feel like we've seen everything before. So I feel like that's what makes it extra frustrating when it's like, you did have me, like I was in, and you let me down.
Yeah, it feels like half a great film, and then it just falls flat, really, and just it can't just follow through with its really good idea, to be honest. So I feel like a film like this just needs more money involved. I know it's a cynical thing to say, probably, but yeah, it feels like that. Screenplay score, then, guys. What are you going for Rare Exports?
I would give it an 8.
Oh, you would?
Yeah, my score. It's the part I liked.
I was going to go much lower.
Go for it.
I was going to go back to like our 6.8. I mean, I think the directing and the writing is kind of maybe the writing's a little better than the directing. So
7. Go with a smooth 7.
The score is going to be so low, Martin.
It's all right. I'm used to losing this season, to be honest. My losing streak... Well, I was on a bit of a winning streak, but certainly the first half of the year was not good.
I feel like we've also set you... Like, this is a hard setup against Gremlins.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you say? A smooth 7?
A smooth 7.
7.0.
For me, for screenplay for Rare Exports, as we've all kind of said, like, great idea, just I don't think it follows through. So, but there's some really, really interesting characters here, and there's a kind of a really good core relationship between the dad and the son, and there is some pretty decent humor here, quirky humor, weird humor, and I think just the tone, I think it's my favorite thing here, just the weird kind of Christmas horror vibes that you're getting throughout the film. Yes, it doesn't fully deliver at the end, but just this kind of weird feeling throughout is probably its best attribute for me. So I'll go like a 7.4. Acting then. Yeah, Rano Contio as Jorma Tomolia. I think Jorma Tomolia is actually the actor I found was great in the beginning of the film. There's like great simple shots on him just like staring at all the deer in that scene that you mentioned, Mac, and he looks quite concerned without even giving too much away. Then you have kind of this little quiet scene where he's made his son like gingerbread men and a glass of milk, and Renau is there like lighting the candles, and his son asks, "What if I didn't exist?" And he's just like, "You should just go to bed now." And Renau is clearly quite emotional and really trying to hide his emotions from his son, but clearly failing. And you're just questioning kind of why. Is it because his wife is gone and it's Christmas now? Or does he kind of know something about Santa Claus that he doesn't want to tell his son at this point? So I found it was just really great acting from that guy. Yeah, and just ask a lot of questions about what's going on. Yeah, pretty decent performance from him, I think. And from the kid as well. Usually I find a child acting really irritating, but I think this kid was pretty good for me.
I completely agree. I feel like the acting, I said before the writing was my favorite thing. I think it's actually the acting. Like you said, I feel like Jorma does such a good job. I was really blown away by him, and I felt like he gave a nice understated performance. I don't think that's a very easy thing to do. And I also agree that the kid was very good. I too get very annoyed by some child actors, and I really feel like the writing in the beginning played a part in this too. Like, because if you make kids not sound like kids, how can they do their best kidly job? And so I think they gave him good material and he did a good job. He was awkward, but in a childlike way. And those two were my favorite. I did think that the other guys were pretty funny, but they didn't have the same level of intensity to me. But that wasn't so bad. I felt like the elves also, the main Peter Jacobi, oh my goodness, very scary. Yes. And so those three to me are like the top of this film.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add. I totally agree. No, I thought the father guy, I thought he was great. I mean, very appealing, despite the fact that, he's kind of abusive to his kid. But I mean, it's a harsh life. So, I mean, but I thought he was fun to follow.
Yeah, I mean, even with the kid, Pietri, like, and the bully is very irritating, and we all kind of wanted him to get killed. But again, like, I think the chemistry between those two actors in particular was really great, because Pietri he has kind of a weird, keep saying weird a lot, but that's just the word of the day, I think, for me on this podcast for this film. But he just has a very kind of awkward quality that he's kind of leaving himself open to this bullying a little bit. He doesn't really stand up for himself too much. And I felt like, even though you really feel sorry for the kid when he's, just bullying him, frankly, in all aspects, you're like, come on, do something, defend yourself. Stop taking it all the time. So there's a great kind of dynamic between those two. I think you feel like the bully is kind of in too much control, and I don't know, it's
I agree. And I feel like there was even another great performance from Jorma where he kind of again seems like he's recognizing that something's wrong between those two. He's like, why are you wearing this padding? And he's like, well, it's just like a game. Because he's like, oh, are you playing hockey? Yeah. He says, it's just a game that we play. Yeah. And he's like, are you playing a little bit rough, But again, not going to go any further than that. But I still thought that was very interesting. And I agree with you. I feel like Pietri, he clearly has such a soft love for the bully, he would be so down to be friends with him. And I thought that was very sweet. But then still gets his chance to kind of be like, no, you're going to be in the sack pile with the other kids because I say so. So I thought that was pretty cute. I really feel like to him, he's like, this is it. You're my only friend. So, all right.
Just got to deal with it.
Yeah. I think the adult men are all, it seems like they're all really good friends. I mean, just going with the idea to chop up the elf guy. They're just like, yeah, sure. That's what we should do. Yeah. That's a good friend,
Yeah.
They are really good friends.
Yeah. I'll chop up a guy for you any day.
And I'll be here with this weird naked man. You go do your thing, even though you brought him to me.
Yeah, I think Peter Jacobi, who turns out to be just an elf, is amazing for me. And the scene after he bites off Pepiron's ear, we see him right at the other end of this abattoir, crouched down, and he doesn't move at all. The three adult characters are just trying to talk to him and poke him to try and get a reaction, but nothing. I feel like I've played that game a lot at school when I was quite little. You'll just sit down in the playground and just don't do anything. Yeah. That's that word again, weird, sorry. But when he kind of hears Pietri from the window, Peter Jacobi just does this like slow head turn towards the window, and does it again when Pietri enters the room and stands up and tries to like walk towards them, but they've got like a gun on him. But when we get like a close-up shot of him on his eyes, are kind of so creepy. It's very uncomfortable to watch and very sinister. Just very kind of supernatural, like in his slow movements in that scene in particular. Yeah, he was very, very good for me.
There was this dread that I feel like really permeated the whole time when, like, you know, he saw his nose twitching, and then, like you said, when he sees Pietri, and when he starts moving towards him, it's kind of like similar to like It Follows vibes of, I don't know what is going to happen when this, but he cannot get near this kid, you know, like this kid's in danger. And I do love that whole scene too, because they're trying to be like, how do you know this old man? And he's like, he's been watching us. And they're like, what? What do you mean?
Yeah. He was outside my bedroom, but you didn't listen.
And he's Santa Claus. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now
it makes sense now. He's got the beard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you like that scene, Christina? Did it creep you out?
Oh, yeah. I think it is so creepy. I mean, because we don't know, you know, we have this picture of Santa Claus in our head, and this is not it. And he's very scary and creepy. And I thought that whole scene was pretty successful. And there is a kind of like, you know, there's a shot of the three men kind of with their guns and stuff on him, which I like a lot. Yeah. And the part that you mentioned, Martin, where they're poking him just to try to figure out, like, what is this? Like, is he alive? Yeah. Is he dead? Is he human? Like, what is it?
How they also can't agree. Like, you know something's wrong. Piparin's like, I know something's wrong because of my missing ear. But the other two are like, oh, he's harmless. He's fine. Yeah. And I'm just screaming, no, he's not. I swear. And then when the dad brings Pietri close to him, I was like, oh, no.
Yeah,
you know,
something's going to happen. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously you get all these scenes where all these people, all these miners have just been dragged away. So you're like, this dude is probably capable of anything. Even though he doesn't really do much in that scene, but every movement is just kind of is emphasized because of all these other deaths that have happened, all the other weird stuff that's come before. So yeah, very effective acting from him, and by far my favorite performance. For me, even though you don't really see him that much, but he was that powerful in that particular scene alone. Yeah, he's mine. But even it's interesting when they're driving to meet the English guy with the glasses and they've got him in the cage in the Santa outfit, like you get that shot of him looking at Pietri through the bars and he kind of looks happy, smiling at him. So that was like the only indication of just like, okay, this is like a good kid, maybe. I don't know. But it was a very, very different expression on Peter Jacobi's face. Did you guys notice that as well?
I didn't notice that part. I think I was so distracted by how funny he looked in that Santa costume. Yeah. He just is so not the picture of Santa, and I thought that was great. Like the garish red, you know, is kind of like a muted tones of everything else, and then here he just is just like standing there.
Yeah.
It's really funny.
He's just like, what am I wearing? This is not my costume. It should be green.
I want to know how they got that on him.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Without their ears being bitten off.
Yeah.
Did have him trussed up in that little thing for a while, so maybe that's how they got it on him somehow.
Favorite performance, Christina?
I'm torn between the elf and the father. I thought they were both really great. So, but I think I'm going to go with the father.
Mac?
I'm going to go with the father too. He's who I keep thinking of.
But he didn't have flashing gold eyes.
Which Peter Jacobi did have. That wasn't in effect.
So that got me. Acting score, guys. What are you going for?
Yeah, I think we should go higher. Definitely.
9.
Ooh.
That's all right.
I was impressed.
Okay.
Mac's not messing about. Do you agree with that, Christina?
Sure. I was so intimidated. That was like, came right out of the gate with that 9. Yeah. How can I disagree?
No complaints.
Cool. Straight 9?
Straight 9.
Straight 9.
Wow. Did not expect that.
We just talked about how good it was.
Yeah,
really.
yeah. Yeah, there's not a lot wrong with it, really, is there, with the acting? So, yeah, I'll go 9 as well. Why not? I'm really just trying to think of faults. And I'm like, there aren't that many, because like even with the English guy, he was just he has kind of this villainous quality to him. This kind of very kind of irritating villainous quality to him with the glasses and kind of that speech at the beginning. So he was great too. So I'm just really trying to think of any bad performances. And Peter Jacobi was amazing. Yeah, and the kids were not annoying. So yeah, 9.
See, this movie we're not totally ragging on it.
No. Right, let's add up the scores then for Rare Exports. Yep, Rare Exports gets 45.5, which is fine. It's okay. I feel like we're going through a long run of films on the podcast where it's really not getting anywhere near the top 10. Yeah, so
that's what makes a top 10, Yeah, it's got to be good.
That's it for part 1. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. Check out part 2 to see who wins. But don't stop there. Get involved and tell me what your favourite films are relating to the episode. Send us a DM or comment on Instagram and TikTok at Film vs. Film Podcast, for X at FVF_podcast. Plus, we are now on YouTube, so hit that like button and comment there. If you do, I'll give you a shout out on the next episode. Remember, please leave us a 5-star review and subscribe. Pod signing off.